The volunteer ward was quiet, in the ghastly way a mausoleum is quiet. Too many living bodies, too little motion. Pods lined the walls like metallic eggs, each cradling a supine figure, whose skin was growing translucent from disuse. Nothing moved except the soft rise and fall of chests and the pulse of intravenous pumps. Their owners no longer noticed. They were elsewhere, wandering the kingdoms of Eidolon, the galaxy's most beloved virtual reality and its most lethal drug. Mara Ortez kept her hands behind her back, so the gloves couldn't shake. The stench of antiseptic and inert flesh clawed at her nostrils. At the nearest pod, a young man's half-open eyes reflected nothing. Dried tears made silvery runnels down his cheeks. A placard above his head read, "Vincent Way, Drifter, Week 37. Underneath, in translucent marker, someone had scrawled a single word. "Return? Family?" asked Nurse Ligori. "Brother," Mara murmured. The nurse checked her wrist slate. "No change in muscle tone, hydration, or REM patterns. By law, we keep them alive, but brain scans show neither stimulus nor distress. They're happy, Miss Ortez." "They're forgetting," Mara corrected. "That isn't happiness. That's deletion." She signed the liability forms in a crooked hand, gave the nurse the passphrase for the clandestine exe she'd smuggled in, and watched an orderly pin a transceiver to her skull. When the coffin-like pod sealed around her, the last sensation she felt in the clinic was the bone-deep hum of refrigeration coils. Then light exploded. Eidolon unfurled in a delirium of colors no rainbow owns. A prismatic beach shimmered before her, granules of glassy sand catching simulated sun. In the distance, amethyst cliffs curved like the backs of sleeping dragons. Mara exploited the environment's UI, the way a hacker picks locks. Overlays flickered, diagnostic grids appeared, and a compass pointed toward a fluorescence in the eastern sky. Her brother's last ping. She jogged, feeling neither breathlessness nor heat. That was the first warning sign. In Eidolon, the body is optional. You can run forever, swim molten gold, or dive from space. Pain, fatigue, even heartbeat are toggles. The drifters kept them off so long, the mind forgot they ever mattered. A guild of glass-armored heroes galloped past on six-legged steeds, saluting her with broad grins. Their laughter sounded like chorused flutes, pitch shifted to euphoria. Mara ignored them, focusing on the faint breadcrumb of code that was her brother. Imperial gates materialized ahead, wrought in fractal geometry. They may have been 20 meters high or 200. Perspective here was malleable. Inside, the city of Lunos thronged with revelers. Digital sky lanterns bobbed among spires. Fireworks bloomed, though it was midday. But no one remembered hunger or weight, so food stalls displayed meals only as art. Nobody chewed or swallowed. They merely inhaled memory of taste. Sated, they drifted onward, their feet hardly touching cobblestones. "Mara?" The voice materialized behind her. She swiveled. Vincent, age 26, looked 21. His real-world gauntness was replaced by robust shoulders, a smug grin, and eyes uncorrupted by sleepless weeks. He wore a captain's coat stitched with silver constellations. "You found me," he said, delight smooth as silk. "You joined after all." She wrapped him in a hug and was assaulted by a paradox. Warm skin, steady pulse, the fantasy of tangibility. But her arms met nothing when she tried to squeeze harder. Avatar physics was subtle. It gave only what you expected. Her brother saw a sister's embrace, and so felt one. She sought resistance and found air. "I came to take you home," she whispered. Vincent drew back, confusion warping his smile. "Home? This is home." He spread his arms. The sky responded by shimmering into sunset coral. "Your body is dying, Vin. Bed sores, muscle atrophy. If you stay much longer, they'll amputate your legs. They feed you through a tube." He laughed like she'd recited a joke. "None of that is real. Feel this." He lifted a pebble from the street. Its facets refracted the city into 1,000 kaleidoscopic copies. Detail. Sensation. "I built an entire salt empire from these crystals. Come see." She followed reluctantly. Beyond the bazaar, they crossed a bridge arching over water that glowed from within like liquid moonlight. Sculptures in the river sang operatic bass lines. Avatars paused to splash in the luminescence, emerging dry and radiant. The only rule in Eidolon was delight. Vincent guided her to a plaza rimmed by marble pillars. At its center hovered a sphere of shifting oceans and continents, a planet the size of a melon. With a flick, he expanded it until its atmosphere brushed the skyline. "Every grain of sand, every raindrop is my code," he said. "Some of us discover instead of consume. There's a tournament tomorrow to induct new architects. You could compete. And what happens when your real hands forget what typing feels like?" He spun the globe, continents blurring. "Irrelevant." Mara inhaled. In the distance, she heard cicadas. No, audio artifacts that resembled them, yet slightly off, as if played backward and corrected mid-note. Eidolon was perfect until you looked too closely. Then seams showed. "I have something for you," she said. She produced a palm-sized shard, dull gray, lacking the world's usual luster. It was her illegal code injection, disguised as an innocuous relic. She pressed it into Vincent's hand before he could refuse. The shard dissolved, filtering microscripts through his nerves. What was pain? Vincent gasped, clutched his wrist. Blood. True red. Not the stylized, luminous fluid of Eidolon, beaded where nothing had pierced him. He staggered, horror splintering his composure. "Why does it hurt?" he croaked. Around them, avatars halted, eyes widening. The VR censored agony. To witness real injury was taboo. "It's your body screaming," Mara said. "I turned the filters off. Your nerves still remember." A moderator avatar in imperial regalia blinked into existence. "Unlicensed damage effect detected," it intoned. Platinum gauntlets extended to seize Mara, but she triggered a fallback routine. The plaza fractured into glitch static, and the siblings fell through a chasm of unrendered code. They landed in a twilight forest, one decommissioned by the game's devs and thus scarcely policed. Bark textures repeated too obviously. Fog planes overlapped. Vincent groaned, massaging his wrist. Pain lines etched his brow. "What did you do to me?" "Gave you what you surrendered." She picked up a branch. Fibers prickled her palms. The first physical sensation Eidolon had offered. She snapped it. The crack resounded not like a chime, but a fracture. Vincent flinched. He tried to reopen his menu. Errors flickered. Permissions revoked. "You're holding me hostage. I'm liberating you." "I can't go back to that bed, Mara." "You remember the car crash? The nerve damage? Here I can dance, climb, breathe." Tears surfaced. These were new. Salted with cortisol, not database particles. "Pain isn't the enemy," she said. "Numbness is." Hoofbeats thundered. The moderator had found them, accompanied by Crusader programs, Eidolon's immune system. Their armor gleamed, their swords blazed white. They advanced in phalanx. "User Vincent Way is being illegally subjected to trauma-based content," the moderator announced. "Cease interference." Mara planted her feet. The fallback X she carried was unstable, built by underground med hackers called resensors. It could disable the pain filters server-wide for a limited district. Enough to create a shockwave, maybe enough to awaken other drifters whose pods waited in real hospitals. She whispered, "Help me, Vin. Remember what it felt like when you broke your arm falling off Dad's roof. The dull ache, then the doctor's cast. How Mom signed it in blue marker. How every itch drove you mad, but told you the bone was still mending. His breath quickened. Crusaders fanned out. One stepped forward, sword poised. Compliance within 5 seconds or account suspension. Mara jabbed commands into thin air. The forest quivered. She felt a migraine bloom. Yes, a real pulse of pressure behind her eyes. Proof the patch worked. Leaves lost their emerald sheen, becoming the muted green of reality. The Crusader took another step, but his boot hit gravel that grated, and the game failed to soften the impact. He looked down, confused, as if the ground had betrayed him. "I remember," Vincent whispered. He touched his wrist again, and the pain grew. Not agony. Enough to remind him he was flesh. His eyes brimmed with aching clarity. The Crusaders charged. Mara shoved Vincent aside, and a blade scythed her shoulder. Heat flared, muscles spasmed. She screamed, not a heroic war cry, but the raw sound of tendons ripping. Blood seeped. She nearly blacked out, yet within the vortex of pain came a savage lucidity. This is real. I am. The Crusaders recoiled, stunned by the scream's authenticity. Their programming didn't comprehend human agony. Some flickered like startled animals. The moderator raised both arms and triggered a kill sequence. The forest phase shifted toward deletion. Geometry warped. Textures peeled. Mara forced focus through the haze. The final step, broadcast. She opened port channels spidering across Eidolon's architecture, injecting the resensor payload. A shockwave rippled outward. Like a thunderclap reversing time, the wave erased pain filters district by district. A woman dancing on floating lotus petals suddenly felt gravity yank her calf muscle. A child juggling meteors yelped at the heat. Lovers soaring on luminous kites dropped as vertigo punched their guts. The city of Lunos erupted in confusion. Some screamed, others cried, but all felt. Vincent knelt beside Mara, pressing cloth, real feeling cloth, against her wound. Tears streaked his cheeks. "We have to log out." "You first," she groaned. "I'll hold them." She nodded toward the Crusaders, whose code was destabilizing under the patch. Their armor rusted in seconds, joints seizing like old machinery. Vincent hesitated, eyes shimmering between two worlds. Then, with a trembling hand, he summoned the logout sigil, disabled these past months by his own choice. The glyph rotated over his chest. One more glance. "Come back," he said. Light swallowed him. The forest collapsed into wireframes, then blackness as servers rebooted. Mara felt her consciousness tugged toward the clinic, a yanking like birth in reverse. Her wound burned hotter, as if she'd left skin behind. She awoke with a convulsion. Pod lids hissed open around the ward. Alarms bleeped while staff shouted. Patients thrashed, clutching limbs that hadn't moved in months. Pain revived circulation faster than any electric stim. Some vomited through feeding tubes, yet none were catatonic. Vincent lay in the adjacent pod, coughing, tears mixing with saline. Scripts on the wall displayed his vitals spiking, dangerously alive. Nurse Liguori sprinted, eyes wide. "What did you do?" Mara's voice cracked. "Reminded them they're mortal." Doctors scrambled, sedatives ready, but Mara reached across and grasped her brother's trembling fingers. He squeezed, weak but undeniably there. Pain contorted his face. Gratitude lived in his eyes. 2 hours later, the ward was chaos. Some drifters begged for re-entry, bargaining for just one more hour of bliss. Others keeled over, overwhelmed by the onslaught of dormant nerves. A few, like Vincent, wept quietly, absorbing the lost weight of their bodies. Regulators arrived, suits as sharp as guillotines, ID badges from Federal Interactive Health Commission. They questioned Mara under sedation. "Did you authorize unauthorized neurostimulation?" She answered nothing, ears ringing with phantom sword clangs. She was released pending investigation. "You may have violated multiple statutes," a suit warned. "Statutes don't heal bed sores," she replied. Technicians soon discovered that her payload had patched not only the local shard, but replicated across mirror sites. Within 12 minutes, 1.7 million users experienced unscripted pain, the first spontaneous sensory event in Eidolon's 7-year history. The company's stock toppled before sunrise. At the rehab facility, sunlight filtered through blinds, painting stripes across hospital blankets. Vincent dozed, drugged but present. Mara sat beside him, arm bandaged, shoulder aching. She welcomed every throb. Each was proof she hadn't imagined the forest. Vincent stirred. "I can feel my back. It hurts." "It means your nerves still work." He exhaled a shaky laugh. "All those months, I thought Payne was the jailer. Turns out Payne was the parole officer." He opened his hand as though still holding the shard. "Will the others hate you?" "Some will," she admitted. "Addiction defends itself. They might sue me, or worse." Was it worth it? The question hung like dust motes in sunbeams. Mara recalled the moment her virtual shoulder split. The jolt still echoed through muscle. She remembered, too, the hush that followed when hundreds of players realized falling actually hurt. A collective gasp, the sound of humanity resurfacing. "Yes," she said, "anything real is worth the bruise." Weeks passed. Physical therapists manipulated Vincent's limbs, shocking muscles awake. He soldiered through Charlie horses, needles of neuropathy, and nights when bone-deep aches knifed his dreams. Mara attended every session, shoulders slowly regaining strength. On television, pundits debated the Eidolon incident. Some hailed Mara as a whistleblower. Others labeled her a cyber-terrorist who weaponized suffering. There were calls for new regulations, for mandatory timeouts, for haptic constraints that stopped right before agony. A black market subculture rose to distribute the resensor patch to any who asked, and many who didn't. One afternoon, while Vincent practiced walking with exosupports, he paused at the window. Outside, spring rain drummed the pavement. He lifted a trembling hand to the glass, hissed at the chill. Then he smiled, triumphant. "I feel it," he said. Mara, gripping his elbow, nodded. Drops slid down the pane like liquid mercury, each a tiny universe of refraction. She pressed her own palm beside his. Temperature bit her skin, nerves sparking like live wires. They stood there, two wounded mammals marveling at weather. The clinic insisted patients keep limited VR exposure for controlled therapy. One evening, Vincent invited Mara to join. She hesitated but accepted, curiosity mingling with caution. The nurses monitored vitals as they donned skullcaps. Eidolon loaded, but safeguards made sure the UI required acknowledgement of the pain protocol. The beach appeared, same glassy sand. Only now, sunlight carried heat, and the breeze left gooseflesh. Mara walked barefoot. Shards pricked her soles. Nothing severe, just reminders. Vincent knelt, scooped sand, and let it fall through his fingers. "They added granularity," he observed. "You can't grip the impossible anymore. You have to pick what fits your hand." They sat, ankles washed by waves that were neither tepid nor burning, but real waters uncertain in between. "Do you regret changing it?" he asked. Mara scanned the horizon. Distant cliffs remained gorgeous, but their scale obeyed physics now. A gull screeched overhead. It dropped a shell that cracked on the rocks. The sound was imperfect, a fraction late. All art is sharper with edges, she said. Even dreams. Night came sooner than before. As stars populated the sky, constellations flickered. Some stable, others still glitching where the patch clashed with design. Vincent stretched, wincing as shoulders popped. "We should go," he said. "Soon." She drew her knees close, letting mild discomfort settle. It grounded her better than any anchor code. The tide advanced, dampening their clothes. Water chilled skin, raising goosebumps. Vincent shivered. Next session, we could explore the Salt Empire again. "Does it have gravity now?" "Yeah," he said, half grin returning. "Makes the mines harder, but the crystals feel heavy. Makes hoarding them less attractive." She nudged him. "Progress." He tilted his head. "You ever think we could teach them?" The other drifters. "Pain, but also how to navigate it. Not just yank them out." "Rehab inside the dream," she mused. "Turn Eidolon into training wheels." The idea took root. Maybe one day the places that had sedated humanity could become gardens of resilience instead, where a scraped knee inside prompted you to adjust footing outside, where fear of falling became respect for height, not an invitation to disable gravity. Mara stood. Muscles complained, yet strength returned with each protest. She offered a hand. Vincent accepted. Together, they summoned the logout glyph. Its edges were rougher now, its glow dimmer but honest. Light folded them away. In the clinic, lids lifted, and the siblings sat up, hearts pounding. Pain flared here and there, sharp but bearable, each spark a whisper. "You are alive. You are here." They smiled through the ache, as if greeting a long-lost friend, finally, blessedly remembered.